Hey, welcome everyone. I'm Grant Hultgren. We've got Kurt Schmidt here. We're gonna just dive into today's topic. We're gonna have some Q&A at the end too, just there. But it's even in preparation for this, I think we overwhelmed our marketing team with all the ideas and topics that we can float around. So please, what I just say before we dive into introductions here is the more interaction, the more questions we get, the better, right? We want to answer those. We are available also afterwards if there's questions on, you're a Parallax customer, you want to know more, or if you know Kurt Schmidt and you're curious about more what he's doing, please, we'd be happy to make introductions. But Kurt, I'm going to start with you. Why don't you kind of just talk through your experience, what you're up to now, and what you're seeing in how AI is changing the agencies you're working with.
Yeah, so thanks, Grant, and thanks, Parallax, for having me. So my name's Kurt, and I'm an agency business coach, and I work with agencies on their operations and improving their operations, improving margins, improving delivery, helping out with a lot of cultural things as well. But I also help with a lot of sales and marketing processes as well up front. So both front of the house and back of the house. Myself, I'm a recovering agency owner. I ran an agency called Founder for about a decade and exited that a few years ago. Previously, I was at a company agency called The Nerdery, and I've just been in the agency side of things forever. And what I see in AI, Grant, to answer your question, I would start with a lot of confusion. I would start with a lot of, can it do this and can't do that? And then that's kind of where it ends in some cases is just, can it do this? Okay, cool. I got to get back to client work.
Yeah, yeah. We might dive into that a little bit here. And then just briefly for everyone, I'm Grant Hultgren, Vice President of Customer Success here at Parallax. Parallax, if you're not familiar with the tool, is a SaaS tool. We specialize in resource management. We believe we're best in breed in terms of resource management to project accounting and ensuring that teams are well run, organized, and we're not burning out our critical talent and our core talent as we grow and scale our organization. And then we can also forecast appropriately because we think that's going to enable you the most. And what I would add there to Kurt, what you've been saying and having a lot of conversations with our customers, because even Parallax has an AI strategy, but it's just such an evolving
It
landscape.
is.
One day you think, okay, well, that's the path we're going to go down. And then the next day, of course, it changes. Everything from our internal use and like helping us ideate on briefs, and it's like, well, now you're literally using like British language. Like, why am I getting British language back in our brief and our scenario planning? Like, which models now? And so I think it's been fun, and at the same time too, to your point, like it's what's the second and that third step, right?
Yeah.
Because that first step right now is that curiosity one, or should I be doing this? Should I be thinking about it? And yes, I think you should be, but we're here to talk about how we get past or how we help teams kind of get past the
Yeah.
other stuff. What I would add there is Kurt has also been a COO before he was the CEO of the Foundry, and he helped me a lot. And I've been a COO of a number of different organizations, two of them being digital organizations, one being a management consulting group, and one being an environmental group. And yet there's some values there that I think Kurt and I share,
Yeah.
fortunately, that have maintained themselves even through these early years of AI. And I think those are some of the things that I want to touch on as well. But
Yeah. I'd
Kurt,
love to do that.
yeah, like
Um,
so like, all right, I think there's two sides of this because as you've been setting up Schmidt Consulting, right? Like you've been going in and helping them with their marketing and sales, like, and these are other agencies global now, right?
yep.
Like not just US based.
Yep.
And you've been like building AI stuff for them. You've been like how do you
Yeah.
get them there? Like because
Yeah.
some people are just stuck in the moment of should I be doing this, right? Or will this take my job?
Part of the problem, Grant, is if you're too close to it, sometimes you can't see the strategy, right? And I think that's where I've been having a lot of success is being sort of an outside person looking in, asking questions and being able to pull some common threads together to find tools and solutions that can actually help them. I'd like to ask the whoever's watching to put a one in the chat if you are currently using AI in some sort of operations. Put a two in the chat if you're exploring those things to see, and it'd be great to hear how you're doing that. So for me, with a lot of folks, it's really figuring out what are the barriers, what are the blockers, what are things that are happening. So currently, for example, I'm working with a client where they do a lot of RFPs, for example, and they process a lot of RFPs. And there's a lot of tools out there that can help you with RFPs and things like that. Some are ridiculously expensive for what you get. But with just some vibe coding, I was able to put together a couple examples of what this might look like to help them. And then being able to build an agent that actually goes back to their repository of all their past proposals, everything they've ever generated as kind of a brain for the LLM, and then be able to help process those RFPs much faster. Because before it was just a 2-week process of just going through the RFP, right? Of just going through and reading through them. And now they can basically just chat with them. And these are things that they didn't necessarily come to me and say, this is a problem we have. Me coding and working with them, being able to pull out these ideas and saying, these look like these could be solved with these problems. And again, here's the thing, start small. Too many people are like, oh, I'm gonna change how we do time tracking. Like, no, don't do that. Don't touch that right now, okay? Build your way there and start with something small and work your way there. Because I would say about 100% of the agencies I work with are using AI for the most part to just write emails and do content.
Yeah.
They're not really using it as much to power the business. And the challenge there, and I wrote an article about this, I think you saw on LinkedIn, where what it's like being a service-based company in a product-based world, where a lot of these tools out there are to sell products, right? You go to HubSpot, how do I put in reoccurring revenue and retainers? Oh, you got to have a custom field for that. We got to customize all this stuff. And it's a pain. There isn't a lot of tools like Parallax that are built just for my business and my problem solving. So in a lot of cases, my suggestion to people is not use something off the shelf. Go and build something on your own. There's lots of tools out there, Replit, Lovable, VO. There's a million of these tools that can help you sort of prototype these things and just test them out and see if you'll use them or if people like them.
Yeah, and I mean, I think like that product mentality, like even me coming from an agency world into a SaaS company, quickly learning to prototype and then also validate, right?
Yeah.
And the best thing about an agency is you have, especially if you and looking at the folks that are responding,
Yeah.
it started out a lot of ones and then there's twos in there. So I think it's almost like an even split, but that
Yeah.
getting quickly to a point where you can drive to a viable or a visible solution relative to a problem you've identified. So
Yeah.
like that RFP example that you just said, like, we didn't know that was a problem, like until you hire someone to maybe work on your business, right? That could say, oh, well, wouldn't it be nice if that was a little easier if you could do that? Like, and it's probably not a cost savings, but you're probably saving them a bunch of time, I would think.
Exactly.
Like,
It's time.
yeah, and so it's like, let's get that time back so that you can either reinvest in your customers, right, as agencies, or I talk to a lot of people on the ops side. It's how do I get that time back to work on the business, right? That we're always competing with, that we're always trying to enable sales and enable delivery, when in reality, some of the main blockers, what I've been reading about is tech debt is a blocker to innovation within
Yes.
any small to mid-size organization right now. It's the large ones that can advance quickly, even though they've got a larger change management curve there, but they can consolidate much more rapidly
Yeah.
generally across that, or they can throw devs at tech debt if they need to resolve it
Yeah,
quicker.
well, this is where the AI can be the great equalizer in a lot of cases. I mean, I remember running my agency, the amount of subscriptions we were paying for per month was just heartbreaking to look at. And looking now at some of the things that I could build on my own that would cover some of those things, or at least create some sort of middleware that allowed me to, it's such a game changer now. And I can create things that are custom to my stuff. And here's the thing that people don't talk enough about, Grant, is the IP it adds to your agency. So if you are thinking about exiting at some point, or merging or selling or something in the future, having these proprietary tools that don't rely necessarily on a 12-person dev team to utilize or to build or to manage can be such a huge increase to the value of your organization just in general.
Well, I mean, just for transparency's sake too, and I know the answer to this, but you've managed dev shops before,
Yeah.
you run them. Are you a developer? Like, what? So when you say you're like going out and
Yeah.
building stuff, what's your background? Like, is it as easy as you're making it sound, or what have you learned that
Yeah.
helped enable you?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, the last time I did development, like we were using FTP as the way to get our files to the internet. So I wouldn't call myself a developer. I would say I'm dangerous enough to be able to sort of understand code, but thanks to these tools and their assistant, and then being able to use other tools in conjunction with them. So let's say I'm using a Replit or Lovable to test something and I'm getting stuck. I can go to Claude and go to its code and be like, here's what I'm trying to do. Tell me what to tell this dummy over here on how to fix this thing. And that just covers most of it. So Claude can be my sort of senior dev hanging out there while I'm using these tools. I saw somebody put in the chat concern about NDAs and client things. I mean, most of the stuff I'm doing is local on my
Yeah.
machine for the most part. So, downloading Llama and installing that and then being able to run most of that stuff locally, and same with my clients and things, but again, back to prototyping things, you don't have to use live client data. You can use other things to test them and prototype them and show some value in them. I'm working with a project management team on ways to consolidate sprint plannings and things into a database where they can make it easier for when they're bringing on new people onboarding, and sort of automatically building wiki from transcribing notes from meetings and things. And again, it's just you're thinking outside of the box. You're spending some time away from a computer. You're whiteboarding some things. What is the workflow that needs more help and or could use some oomph to it, right? Where am I thinking of hiring right now? What could I do to give my team the tools to empower them further?
Yeah. Yeah. And well, to go back to one of the points that you just said that I remember from my days of being a COO, that was a blocker was, do I have time to work on the business? Like,
Yeah.
I think every agency is revenue driven, right? Pipeline sales are going to come high up there in the priority list. Delivery, of course, operations background for me was always high up there in terms of my priority and helping my teams. And it was always that work on the business side that just kind of fell by the wayside for me a lot of the time, unless I really sat down to do the mid-year check-in on the plan, right? Or sat down and did the quarterly recap on if we achieved our goals. And those had to be very, almost like you're taking PTO that day, but you're just actually working on reports and, working on those elements. I mean, is that what you're still seeing here, is like getting that dedicated viewpoint into the business as a blocker, or are there other pieces that when we look at what AI can unlock impacts how organizations can change or even have start evaluating tools out there?
Yeah, I think again back to my earlier point about testing is really important. There's a great website called There's an AI for That. And so anytime I come up with an idea, the first thing I do is go to There's an AI for That and I search, see if somebody's already built a thing. And it's a great, there's a bunch of repositories like that out there, but that's where I start and then
Yeah.
determine do I want something off the shelf or should I be building it myself? It's really helpful to realize like I'm guilty of this being an agency owner, assuming that I'm a beautiful and unique snowflake and everything I'm doing is the first time it's ever been done before, but it turns out not so much.
Yeah, there's some tried and true, which is both reassuring and I think and like maybe sometimes
Oh, and
just
I've told you
humbling.
this, Grant. I mean, once a month, my clients, one of their main questions is, "What are other people doing?"
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we don't have such a robust community of industry around our industry. We do have some conferences and things, and we do have some groups like the Bureau and some other places, the Bureau of Digital, that try to attempt it. But a lot of times, we are so busy
Yeah.
working on our clients' work and dealing with our people. We just, we run out of energy really fast. And
Yeah.
my hopes are is that where AI takes us is allows us, again, back to your point, not necessarily about saving money, but saving time.
Yeah, it's interesting on the and if anybody's heard me say this before, and yes, there is a like my own self preservation, I guess, if you want to call it that. Like I put AI as a tool, right? AI should be enabling me to do better work, to be more efficient, to be more effective, to be able to work on things that are higher priority and get more higher priority items done, right? And so that's the lens I approach these. Now that is a very operational process-based lens because that's been my background. And there are tools actually here, even at Parallax. There's one out there. They just got more funding called Maven AGI, and we use that. And but guess what? Like the first thing that we had to do was rewrite all of our knowledge base, rewrite a whole
Yeah.
manual, which most people don't probably think it's fun, but for me it was a blast, and I got to partner with some. But it's like it was only as good as the data and the content we were putting in there, right?
Yeah.
And so I had a status call and I said, what I'm really grateful for this tool is it prompted me to prioritize
Yes.
stuff that I had been putting off. And now I saw value associated with that. Still didn't decrease maybe some of the time, although we did, use some of the AI tools to do that. But I want to take a sense of pride of the creation of the content there. Now, though, I can distribute it far more effectively because of the platform that we're using, and they're bringing MCP to it, and so now we can even start evolving it with APIs and all sorts of stuff. And so it's like, okay, well, we'll see what happens. I'm grateful that it's been enabled. We still got to drive further value for it, but as a tool, it's helped our team, and it's now the hour saving is,
Yeah.
that's what we can start seeing on the horizon. Still work to get there, but like that's where you're saying like build, and for me, I'm like there's some tools out there that will enable you, and like I also probably know I need that accountability, so I would like hire someone like you, or
Sure.
I would go get this license because I now know I have to deliver based off of the value that I'm paying there, and like
For sure.
it's just, yeah,
That's why I say, like, don't, make sure you, before you look, do you have to determine should I build or buy, right?
yeah,
And that's a big determination. But like I said, there's a pros for building are, you can do smaller tests, and you can increase IP for your place. But it also can become a rabbit hole and a big distraction too, right?
it can.
Like
It's well,
like
and
I know a lot of people like who love Notion, but they love Notion because they love customizing Notion, not
right.
because not because they're actually getting a lot of value out of it. But you can tinker with it like all day long, so it's great. It's like it's more of a hobby. It's like Legos.
100%. And I know a couple people that also have run Notion consultancies, and they are very firm with the walls that they put up around how you structure it, right? Because
Yeah,
Notion will say we're an AI enabled tool, and you could just break that so fast. Um, and there's tools out there on the project management side. I mean, some that we even look at when we do larger technical integrations and stuff like that. So like a ClickUp, for example, very unstructured in terms of its data model. We still have customers that swear by it because it enables their team in certain ways, and they can follow that, and
yep,
that's great. And
yeah.
then there's, others out there, like even this on the CRM side that can be more or less structured along the ways that also enable features and functionality.
Yeah, I find again when it comes back to project management tools, it's just as culturally important to understand as it is like what the tool actually does. Like, will your team actually use it, or are they secretly using an Airtable in the background to actually do a lot of the work or something? So you've got to be on top of that. But I did want to bring up the idea of how clients are working with my clients in terms of how they're working with clients in terms of AI. And what I see happening more often than not is that clients are testing the water, and they're saying, "Are you use AI, or can you use AI? What are you using for AI?" And to be honest, I would say that majority of those conversations are budget conversations, not AI conversations. They're testing the water to see if there are efficiencies that could be had in the work that they're doing with people. So they might be doing regular work where maybe you're producing regular short form videos for them. That's part of your creative, or it's retainer process or SEO. Just be aware that when a lot of clients these days are bringing AI in discussions, it's a budget conversation, a value conversation versus a are you are you ahead of the curve conversation? You know what I mean?
100%. And I think there's 2 points I would add to that in the conversations I've had both with customers and with non-customers. Kind of what you were getting at before, like one, you don't have to rock the whole boat. You don't have to disrupt every system to adopt AI today. And I think even going to the question around, oh, clients have NDAs. Well, then don't use AI on them. Like, and that's okay. Like they're hiring you, they've hired you to do X, like deliver X.
Yep.
Like you don't need to change any of your existing customer relationships. We had a recent webinar on value-based pricing. And like for me, it's like value-based pricing should be go to market strictly. Don't go disrupt any existing contracts you have today, in my opinion, to do that. Like evolve them, maybe get them on upsells if you want to trial that. Like, but
For
you've already
sure.
got to trust a relationship and lean into that one for the consistency. And then as you're ready and you feel more confident, you can
Yeah.
start incorporating those elements. The other side, I would say too, is like operationally, and this is the conversations again that I've been having is it's very I think it's tricky right now on the AI side. Like if you are and you're helping organizations on the sales and go to market side, but if you are threatened by AI on that side, like you've probably got some work to do on your positioning in the
Yep.
marketplace.
Yep. 100%. Yep.
To your point, AI should be an enabler, or it's really digging in at budget, which goes to like how you're presenting value and how you're
Yep.
demonstrating that. In which case, you should have a counter argument or a pivot if they're essentially trying to get you at a lower rate
Well, so I
or
was gonna say it can be a red flag to be like this client might not be understanding the value of what they're buying. It might not be about you. They might just think that because they see so much hype around AI video,
yeah,
well, why am I paying for all this stock footage for stuff now? Like, why can't we just do this stuff? And it's really up to you to educate yourself so you can help educate that client on what they're doing. But that's why I say like the more mid, smaller size agents, I feel like are going to see a boom over the next 18 months. Whereas the very, very big monsters are going to see a decrease because those people are going to have a lot harder time implementing AI and then being able to build it into their culture. But a more mid-sized to smaller agency, they can change and manage, they can move quicker than these larger places and be able to offer different things faster. They can shift, and they're usually a bit more risk tolerant, so they will try putting some things out there, and they can adapt a lot faster than these very, very larger agencies. And so I see AI actually increasing as long as, again, you are positioning yourself as someone who is using it to enhance your operations, not just like write more copy for, write more blog posts, which great. That's great. Honestly, in terms of the writing stuff with I think we've plateaued. Like, I just don't, it does, how does it get much better than what we're doing? Does it just get more predictive? Like, what else is it going to add? I think in my mind, the next phase here is like, how can we start using these reasoning models plus our information, our years worth of data that we've collected at small companies, and starting to combine those two things into ways that supercharge what we're doing,
yeah,
and make it faster and easier.
yeah. And I think some of those is I don't think that's changing core metrics within agencies.
No.
SBI has been reporting on this for 40, 50 years of revenue per billable employee. Well, that model, that KPI still works as a baseline relative to AI coming in and maybe disrupting the hours, right? It takes 30% less hours to do the deliverable now. And it's that's where I'm trying to work with our customers of, okay, like this like we're still looking at the same landscape. Now,
Yeah.
the nuance is there, of course. The biggest piece that I hear about though is on the revenue side and that sales pipeline side. And I heard a story even recently. It's like we were a perfect fit, right? We were value oriented, but we didn't present an AI solution as part of our final pitch, and that gave them pause. And I think there's some pieces there where it's like, okay, you need to start to adapt your story a little bit to make sure you're not leaving it out. But it's such a hard line between hype
Yeah,
and like being
for
feeling
sure.
like you're hyping something that doesn't exist yet, like that reasoning side. Even I've run into that. It's just things being made up in some
Yeah.
of the prompts and responses. But yeah, it is a tough spot, I think, where some of our agencies are at. The piece on the small to mid size, which I was watching a webinar recently, actually from the chief AI person of one of our largest clients, and he said acquisitions since 2022 were up 300%
Yep.
of agencies. And
100%.
and that is going exactly to your point that the big guys up there are saying we need innovation, we
Yep.
need speciality, and they're going in looking at those small to mids to say who
Yep.
can we bring either to
Yeah,
prop
because
up our
people
portfolio or bring that expertise that we can now leverage
people are
against.
buying different these
Yeah,
days, and I that's what I'm one big thing I'm working with my customers because 10 years ago people used to show up and say we need to redesign our website because it's ugly because it's gross. Nowadays customers don't do that anymore. They show up and they say we need to rank higher, we need more conversions, we need, and they are talking in metrics, and they didn't do that before. And so but what's happened is a lot of agencies haven't changed their messaging and their positioning
yeah.
to focus on results driven. And a lot of times we're guilty of that because we don't ask. And we just don't ask, how did it do? And we don't track that with clients. We usually leave it up to them to tell us, is it good or not good? And we don't position ourselves as strategy partners in that case. Well, those agencies that are positioning themselves in that way, or at least leaning into it, those are the ones that are going to see the bigger boom over the next 18 months. And if we look at, to your point, I'm seeing way more mergers and acquisitions and things happening because what's happening is that clients are asking for specifics and we can't offer it. Do we bolt it on? Again, build or buy. And so in a lot of cases, well, I can build. I do want to ask the audience though, like put a one in the chat if you are using AI in client work. And a two, clients are asking you specifically about using AI. And then also if you're not touching AI at all, just put in why and let us know. That'd be great. So yeah, so again, you see a lot of people are using AI in some sort of
Yeah.
fashion, and I'm guessing a lot of the majority of it again is back to content in general, right? But again, this is where the opportunity lies, is that this, in my mind, the content piece and the SEO piece and all that stuff is the low hanging fruit. The next level is when we are using it in operations to start to streamline all the things we're doing. I mean, again, I'm working on a proposal writing tool. I'm working on strategy tools that, again, the more that we get experienced as an agency and we know what we're good at and what we're not good at, we can start to package these things. We can put a price on it. We can create a door opener that's using AI and it's lightweight and it's easy for people to work with. This is how people are shaking in their boots. I just heard an ad the other day for one of the big consulting places, and you know what the ad said, Grant? It said we're using AI more and we're passing the savings on to you. And so they're literally talking about how discounting their work because of AI. That's how desperate they are. Like a car salesman, like like car sales, like, hey, we got too much inventory. We're passing the savings on to you, man. It's
Well, that's
crazy.
interesting. I wonder because I get a prompt every like 3 days from Slack that it seems like the percentage decrease or increases for the discount to use their tools. And I wonder, I think that is an interesting, like, where that's coming from, right? And I do think change management is the biggest, like, they wouldn't be doing that if they had a full funnel of it, right? Like, it's just basic supply and demand. And yet,
Yeah.
so they're going to market with this messaging that we're passing savings on to you or get a free, like, I think that speaks to one, some of the changing landscape. I
Yeah.
mean, even as an organization, right? We've got agents in the marketplace, and even in my experience with Maven AGI, I was saying like we have really interesting expectations of what AI should be able to do,
Yeah.
and it's still, I the most I've heard is like some organizations having been on this journey for 3 years, and those were really, of course, like depends on what you call AI. There's all sorts of modeling and predictive measures that, of course, have been here for a long, long time.
Yeah.
Machine,
Yeah. For sure.
but more like I'm talking the Chat GPTs, the anthol, yeah, get
Anthropic.
myself, yeah. Thank you, Anthropic. Like those ones out there now that are really becoming far more accessible. It's interesting, like how our perception of how they should be affecting us today
Yeah.
is, yes, it's exponential in their growth, but some of them still need to get there, right? Like, and I think going in, like, goes very back to your first point. Solvable problem. Define it nicely. Like Kat Murphy just put in coding chatbots, workflow. Like, if you haven't played with a chatbot yet, like that is to me awesome. You
Yeah.
should, right? Like
Yeah.
you can do
Yeah.
employee onboarding that way. You can
Yep.
do HR requests. You can do like all sorts of stuff.
Oh
Like,
yeah, I've built a bunch of employee onboarding stuff, or even offboarding things too, that have been really successful and really helpful for the people that have to deal with that stuff. Because again, those are things you don't want to have random things happen during.
yeah.
You
And
know.
and I would say on the coding side, there for communities, you mentioned the Bureau earlier, Soda's
Yeah.
got one too. There's really interesting conversations. I generally don't buy into like the hype, but hearing the different expectations of Cursor relative to
Yep.
a large old code base that wasn't well maintained versus a new code base that is well maintained, and then the all the in between, and the wow, it actually created more work against the old archaic code base, and therefore we need humans just to do the work. And as soon as we get that re-architected to a certain point, now we can see the benefits,
Yep.
which could be anywhere from 15 to 30% more efficiency on the coding and unit testing side. That
Yep.
to me is like fascinating how quickly that is coming together. Annie Smith had a question about HubSpot. I don't know if you've got experience with their agents or their AI
Yeah, they're
models.
great. HubSpot does a great job with their AI stuff. Again, you're paying a lot more because I think you could build some of those tools on your own, but if you like having all your data integrated into HubSpot, I think they're doing an excellent job. Rarely disappointed with HubSpot and their engineering talent.
Yeah,
They usually do a very good job. Their UI, I could use some work. That menu on the side, I can't freaking stand it. Just can't. It's just come
not for
on.
you, huh?
Oh, come on, HubSpot. Yeah, I would definitely. And most of my clients are using HubSpot. I've got a few using Pipedrive, or they're using some sort of crazy spreadsheet they built from a while ago. But I'm trying to move them to places like HubSpot and stuff. To at least, again, not because I'm trying to. I don't get. I'm not a HubSpot reseller by any means, but it's just we got to get all that data in one place, but then we can act upon that data. And I see too many agencies that have got, well, we've got our corporate documents are in Google Drive, but our client stuff is in Dropbox and our things are over here. Because that's the problem with AI implementation. You go and talk to, I was just having a conversation with one of the largest water pump manufacturing companies in the world. And their problem with AI is that their data is not organized and centralized. So they can't just implement AI. And I think that back to the core operations of where you're going to run into trouble implementing more AI into your agencies, that if you do not have your data organized, if you
Yeah,
do not have these things that you're going to use as part of the brain for the AI in good places, that's the first task that you got to
yeah,
do. You got to clean up your backyard before you go and decide to put a new swing set in. You got to go up there, you got to move the picnic table, you got to, you got to do all this stuff to make sure that it's ready for it. So the first best piece of advice I'd give people is do a data audit of what you got, where is everything located, do an audit of all your subscriptions and what you're paying for, and build this sort of map of like where does everything live. Because once you have a really good idea of that, and again, I know 10-person agencies that struggle with this. It isn't just about, some of the large agencies I work with, because again, we're moving at the speed of our clients, right, Grant? We're just tossing stuff behind us as we're like jumping on in the next job. So it takes, that's be the first thing I would ask people to spend some time.
100%. I mean, yeah, so some of our customers, when we've done technical audits with them and helped them, there was in one instance we found 250 separate licenses for timesheets and project management tools.
Oh,
And
sure.
why? Because and some of them are tiny, right? So it's not like all of them are six-figure licenses or anything like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
They
yeah,
wouldn't be in business, but it's just people go quick and easy. I want to use this, and here's my free trial. It turns into that cheap license, and there's just stuff like that.
yeah,
So definitely the audit side.
for sure.
Obviously, as a SaaS company, I'm always going to advocate that we'll be able to organize your data in a more standard way
Yep.
to help your team. But even prior to that, and this is why I twice implemented Parallax, is because it's people and process, right? Like,
Yeah.
you got to get the adoption. And I do think that's one of the arguments as to how we partner with AI, right? Like, AI will never clean up our data. I
Hmm.
still, when I'm onboarding customers, I'm working with one right now, there's not a client assigned to their opportunity.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I know based off the name of the opportunity that it goes to this client, but like we just get the data in, right? And like
Yeah,
have
yeah,
the
yeah.
salesperson own that and that accountability, help them understand why that's important in the gram flow. And I do
Yeah.
think that's almost phase two. Do your audit, your landscape, choose where you're going to invest your time relative to the fact that you know that you're going to have to help your team. You're going to have to help organize the day, maybe do like a one-time cleanup to shore it up, then start iterating on it. And then it is, how do we manage it and how do we make sure that we're growing something that will actually
Yeah.
have returns, right? Like,
Yeah.
because we do all this and people, it's too over constructed. The swing set's too big for the yard and the neighbor doesn't like it, whatever, analogy you want to use. Like, it doesn't make sense. And I think that is where being really strategic about those tools and those partners
Yeah,
that will come
for
and
sure.
help you are critical.
Yeah. So if you have lost, or if you've lost a client or lost work thanks to AI, put a 0 in the chat. Um, for me, the idea is that this can also be a tool for you to show your clients how forward thinking you are. So, for example, recently working with an agency, we built a couple of little low code, vibe coded tools. And
Mhm.
then we went on a little road show with current existing clients, and we're like, hey, can we just show you some of the things we've been messing around with? Now, secretly, Grant, you and I, we kind of built these knowing who these clients were, and whatever, and demoed these things to them, and they got really excited and were like, oh, how can I get some of that? Oh, well, this isn't for, this would be a whole project and whatever. Well, I don't care. What I've seen in more cases than not is that you can increase the amount of AI products you're using as part of your thing if you're doing road shows with your clients and helping them. They see
Validated.
it, right?
Yeah.
Because most of the clients, they have to see it before they understand it. Like there's no like, you can just say AI and that means a million different things, right? I haven't seen a 0 go in there yet, which I'm not surprised, because what clients don't trust AI. We have a trust thing. Now, as agencies and consultants, just in general, we're selling trust before we're selling anything else, before we're selling SEO, before we're selling HubSpot, before we're selling development. You have to trust us. And if we come in just barreling in with like, we're an AI forward agency, that can actually work against you. And so, but what will happen is that if the client does trust you and they do meet with you, they're going to ask, like, how are you using AI? Are you going to use it? Are you going to use Chat GPT just to write all my blogs? How many?
Yep.
I bet I get a ton of ones in there. People had a client ask, do you just use Chat GPT to write my blogs for me? Of course, they're going to ask that, and they're going to say it half-heartedly, but also half seriously, right? Because they don't know what's happening behind the magic. And if you do get a client asking that, that's a good sign for you to explain to them better what your process is and what your work is, so they better understand it and therefore better understand the value you bring.
Yeah, and even in those cases, some of the most effective messaging I've heard around that is, well, it's almost like, what would you prefer, right? Like, I can give you a bunch of ideas, right? And if you've got the right models, you can go out there and produce a lot of content that may have low value, right? I
Oh,
think
yeah.
as a small to medium sized agency, we want to be out there and doing impactful work. We're not the volume based machines that others can be, the larger agencies in particular.
Yep.
So it is this like, all right, do you want the human intervention one or do you want the human curated? Like, and now you can have a pricing model or a value-based model to say, all right, like here's how we can structure this. That only empowers them to engage you in that conversation of what they actually want. I think also they're asking that question like, are you just going to use ChatGPT to write up like out of fear? They don't, it's not a or budget, right? Like
Yeah.
it's not a strategic question at this point in time until you can bring a tool to bear that says, well, actually, you kind of want me to, right? And it's not ChatGPT, it's actually this one over here, and I'll show you actually how it works, right? Because no one bats an eye when I use Gong's AI analysis to reproduce all the next steps in about 30 seconds after a call is done,
Yeah.
or Zoom's functionality to like they all see that value instantaneously. They all know that they were there. And I think you're right. Like it is that trust basis there. And that fear, like getting around that and leveraging it, I think is a huge opportunity
Yeah.
for organizations.
Well, if you look at I mean, you can see this, and Gardner has their hype model, and you can see very quickly like there's you can almost map it like a GPT is introduced, and then it's all this disillusionment, and then we go into this enlightened mode, and I think we are kind of in this enlightened area because what you're seeing today is more memes around AI. I love this term AI slop. Like slop is so great. It's such a great term. So that shows you the disillusionment that's happened. And now we're kind of on this road to enlightenment where then it's going to eventually plateau, right? But again, AI is really a tool. The more you can get involved now and understand how it works, the more the more your business will benefit. And I don't mean like talking to a chatbot. I mean building an AI agent or building an AI tool. There's tons of stuff out there that lets you try it out and just
I,
see what's possible. And you're not going to hurt anything. You don't have, like I said, you don't have to put real client data in.
well, like the RFP example you shared, I love because it's like, what's the worst that happens?
Yeah,
You're back
what's the worst?
just reading RFPs. Like,
I know.
it's not that that's like, but I don't know. How much time did you spend building that? And maybe it was a day or so.
Yeah.
There's an example. The Bureau does put on Bree. Oh, I'm forgetting her last name. I'll post it here. She was in a webinar with me earlier as one of the panelists. She came out and she said, like, listen, I'm not sure about AI. Like, our CEO keeps pushing it. I don't have time, right? She's an operator. And after the panel, she said, well, I'm going to just do like, what AI do for you this week? And she runs like just a little mini session. It has people share. One guy saved like $72,000 on API calls that he was being upcharged by a SaaS product.
Yeah.
And it's like, why? Because you spent 3 days and the dev team didn't want to do it?
Yep.
I mean, that to me is just fascinating. And I think that does, it's sort of like go, I think to your point, maybe the first one doesn't work, right? Maybe you sit there a little meh. But by the second or third one, when you start identifying some of those problems, whether it's write me a creative brief, right, based
Yeah.
off this new client coming in. Oh, that really worked well. How do I like operationalize that so it's consistent?
Oh yeah. No. And
Like those are the parts that the scalability become really fun.
again, back to building that trust. With sales and marketing, we've always had this lead magnet stuff, right? Where you go get a PDF and enter your email address, and then I can get your email address and I'll give you some stuff. And the way I've changed it with a lot of agencies is let's build a tool that helps people instead of a PDF they can download. Let's build some sort of calculator, some sort of thing that actually can help the client with some real information can help them with their job and make them better. And I find that those are converting way better than any
Yeah.
PDF ever has. And again, a couple of years ago, I would have had to go to one of my developers and be like, hey, do you got any free time? I got this dumb idea. And they're going to look at me like, oh, here we go. Here's the CEO with their crazy, wacky, woo, let's go. And then I'm never going to hear about it. And I can build and test this stuff in a day. Then I can hand it over to one of the designers and they could like make it actually look halfway decent. And then I can put it out there and then I can post it to LinkedIn and see what works. And if it doesn't work, great. Like I'll tear it down and build a different version. Again, that build those tools based off our expertise and our knowledge is just such a differentiator
Yeah.
than putting a PDF out. Because again, I don't know where that PDF came from. Did you write it? Did you not write it? And how many of us sit there and go back to these PDFs we download?
Yeah, 100%. And maybe it helps me sleep better at night, but I love doing that. Like, what are the problems I can solve, right? Like, how can I, as an operator, like, how do I help my team, right? Like, those are the things that I ultimately want to be doing anyway. And now I think what you're getting at too is validate. If you can validate with your customers, great. Validate internally even first, right?
Yep,
Like,
for
am I
sure.
actually adding value?
Yep.
And now also you have a strategy to demonstrate competency in AI, like, right? Like, and
Yeah.
that's why I really like some of those
And build in
methodologies.
public so your clients can see it,
Yeah.
right? Like, hey, we just launched this new tool that calculates how much money you save doing this kind of SEO work that we do versus doing it yourself or something. And I'd love to get your take. Does this seem accurate? Does this not seem accurate? You know, it's funny because even in one case with one of the clients, the client came back and like, oh, you do SEO? Like,
Yeah.
yes.
Well,
I thought
and
you
that,
just did the website. Oh, okay. I didn't know. Oh, we should talk about that.
well, and that goes to like when, like you and I have talked a lot about this of when you're looking at and you go into a customer of yours and start evaluating, it's what's that rigor for going back to your existing customer base
Yeah.
on these and it just builds further trust, right? I mean, they can always say no, no problem, right?
Yeah.
But at
And I
least
get,
now
yeah.
they have in the back of their mind, oh wow, look at this agency. Like they're trying to evolve, they're working, and you never know. Like that's huge.
Yeah, and I remember, I mean, a decade ago, if you were to say that to me, I would have been scared because I always looked at like if I touched a client after they sold, like it'd break. You know what I mean? Like I
Yes.
can't, I don't want to go talk to them. I don't want to unsell anything, you know, because
Yep.
everything seems fine. So why do I talk to the client? That's the exact opposite attitude you should be having because the more you're interfacing with that, I have a little ebook on my site where I talk about building a client advisory board
Mhm.
for your business. And these are the people that can help you understand what are the current challenges that they are facing and what are they expecting from their agency partners. And it's a great tool. I used it for years. It helps, you know, we doubled in size every year with Foundry. And I attribute a good amount of that to that sort of customer panel that we built and regularly interfaced with and used to help us understand where we could be doing better and where were their minds at.
Yeah, yeah. Last shout out for any questions there. Kurt and I could talk probably all day, but
We could talk all day.
yeah. Kurt, where can folks find you if they say, "Hey,
Yeah.
I want to learn more about that and or what you're doing"? Where should they look you up?
Yeah. So I'm obviously on LinkedIn a lot. I love LinkedIn. And if you don't like LinkedIn, you should contact me because you're probably doing it wrong. So on LinkedIn a lot, but you can find me at schmidtconsulting.group. That's the website, and I've got a bunch of info there. Plus, I have a YouTube channel called Agency Unfiltered, where I do a lot of short sort of videos on things that I think agencies should be concerned about. I share some of the things that my clients and things are working on, and so you can find me there. But just reach out to me, ping me on LinkedIn, give me a shout out if you want to chat. I'm more than happy to have casual chats about whatever. And but yeah, I'm having the best time of my life, honestly. I've got great partners like Parallax who invite me on their shows. I've got amazing clients that are growing like crazy. So I couldn't be happier and I'd love to share it with folks. So reach out.
Yeah, and I would just echo that. If you want to learn about Parallax, you can go to app.getparallax.com or getparallax.com. Go learn more. I'm not a sales guy. I love talking ops, though. I love figuring out how agencies are adapting, changing, or where they don't have to. That side of things is really fascinating to me, and I love agencies because it's the human talent that comes together
Yeah.
to problem solve. And I don't want to see that change. And I think
I
when
don't want to see
people
it
bring
change
up
either.
AI, yeah, that fear, I get it. I really do. There's people might even quote me here. We did a big kickoff here earlier this year at Parallax, and I said, "Well, AI is going to take my job here in CS, right?"
Yeah.
And the guy leading our AI strategy and helping us building some of the agents, we looked at me. He's like, "No," he's like, "Here's what it will do, though." And I think just those sorts of conversations of, okay, like how do you find? I mean, yes, a customer advisory board, but like maybe a COO advisory board. Like, who are those people you can go to be like, is the sky falling or are we reaching new heights sort of thing, right? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
And so, anybody that wants to connect and talk about what's going on with their
Yeah. Do
agent,
it.
I'd love to chat.
We got a couple of questions here. So,
Oh, sweet.
what do you feel is the most user-friendly AI agent tool you've found? Great question. So, I use a tool pretty regularly that's a workflow tool called N8N, and I will put a link in, or I'll put it in the thing, n8n.io. It's a great place to start. It's not as user friendly, obviously, as a Lovable or Replit or a more UI driven interface. But this is probably it's also got a very robust community. There's a lot of templates out there, which is great. So you can just start with a template and just start messing with it, which is what I did basically, is just started breaking templates and figuring
Yep.
out what did I do wrong. It's a great place to get started with agents that are now I've used it to build a lot of tools for clients as well, or at least as the workhorse behind the scenes. And what's great about N8N, again, I'm not an affiliate, I'm not N8N, but they also allow you to run it locally, which is a big deal too. I
Yeah,
would
I
say,
would echo that. N8N is one that I've used. Actually, Breeze Group got me onto them. Someone did a demo, and that's where I got that. Zapier's agents have been fun for me to play
yeah,
with recently.
Zapier
They
and
just
Make,
rolled those
yep,
out in the last 2 months. They are changing rapidly, but coupled with their spreadsheet functionality now that they have, which is not as robust as like a Google Docs or something like that, but like it's been fun to just do like data dumps and then run agents against it and
yeah,
like say I'm running agents. That's been fun for me. Corinne said, where should an agency go to start figuring out where they should be or where they could have IP and how to develop into a tech tool? Ooh, have you built a proprietary tool, Kurt?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
How'd
yeah.
you start that?
So for me, it was figuring out basically what were we doing that was really unique for the way that we were solving for specifically, I would say, for maintenance on projects, because at Foundry we built a lot of custom software, and so there would be a lot of long-term sort of maintenance agreements. But also, what would happen is in many cases where we were working with a large company, like we did a lot of work with Boston Scientific and U.S. Bank, and these big companies, like they'd want us to hand the code off to them. But we were able to build some tools that helped the handoff and the packaging go like super fast, rolling documentation, rolling up repos, rolling up all this stuff into a quick and easily digestible package instead of having like three of your senior developers trying to figure out where everything is and being able to do that.
Well, I would just add, especially if you're like a smaller to mid-size agency, and this was a big lesson learned with a group that acquired agency that I was a part of. We built proprietary tools and they built them off of open source elements and like open source code bases. And you have to get agreements there. So you can blow up all of your IP without the proper structure. And I just will never forget that lesson learned. So build quickly to prove the process, but know that you might have to go back and like actually create new stuff to
Yeah.
replace the open source or licensable or agreement based code bases or elements that you have. And just
Yeah.
that's where I would just be very careful.
And
And go ahead.
sorry, I was just going to say, I've had some agencies that have actually are exploring partnerships with their clients on
Yep.
tools, agentic tools that they could resell together. So,
Yeah.
um,
And I think as you architect and structure that, like, adaptability at this point too is huge. So the ones that I know, like they're not putting all their eggs in one model. They're making it adaptable to different models because one, they change
yep.
and it goes to that curve that you're talking about. But
Yeah.
two, the models are also good at different things.
Yeah.
So some, like O3 is ChatGPT O3 is really good at deep research and that sort of logic side. It's slower, but okay, that can be really good in some, but it's not as good at like copywriting or brief writing and stuff like that. So bear in mind that as you build these out, try to make them as adaptable and plug and play as
Yeah.
possible because that's where the models are changing
Look
so
at, I mean, again, you could just go and look at a ton of businesses that are SaaS platforms out there and how many of them were agencies before they became
much.
SaaS platforms. It's crazy. So don't shy away from this opportunity. Could be that you could launch a product from your agency. Not saying you're going to become Jamf or Code 42 where you completely just toss the
Yeah.
toss the agency aside and you're not this thing. But yeah, it's a thing. I mean, again, you look at where some of the best tools like Slack came from, a gaming company that wanted to make games better, and Parallax was born from an agency
Yep.
world that just wanted to make resourcing better,
Yep.
and so if you see those areas and you're passionate about it, AI is such a great way to just start testing the waters without have to investing hundreds of thousands of dollars into an MVP, which is not an MVP, which is, yeah, don't get me started
Yeah.
on that.
We're a little bit over time. There is another webinar coming out next week with Parallax. Keep your eye out on that on LinkedIn. But thank you, Kurt, so much for joining.
Thank
Always
you.
fun to chat. Reach out to Kurt if you have questions about how your agency can become more efficient, how it can message better in the marketplace. He is an excellent resource for all of those pieces and would be happy to help. But thank you, Kurt.
Thank you.
All
Appreciate
right.
it.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
We'll see
everyone.